And here we go. Once again, the idiots of The View never seem, boy, these people at The View, they never seem to disappoint, do they? They're just constantly saying the stupidest things you can possibly fathom somebody would say. And, it's not any one particular. They're all equally stupid over there. They're all equal idiots over there at The View. You got Whoopi Never Missed a Mill Goldberg. I mean, she says some of the dumbest crap I've ever heard somebody say on a talk show host. And the thing that always gets me is by the time when she gets through making her completely idiotic statement, she always does the same thing. Well, that's just me. That's just me, and I could be wrong. Kind of gives her a way out when some people start calling around on her stupidity and the absolute inflammatory things that she's constantly saying about everybody else. And then you have Joy Behar. She's just an idiot. This lady is straight up moron. Straight up moron. Everything that's good for the country, Joy Behar is against. She was an avid Joe Biden supporter. She was an avid Kamala Harris supporter. Two things that were absolutely terrible for the country. Then, of course, don't get me started on Sonny, I'm a racist, Hostin, who, by the way, if I'm not mistaken, her husband is tied up into a RICO suit right now for doing some shady insurance illegal surgeries. I mean, you can't make this stuff up with these people, man. It is just absolutely fantastic. And they're constantly having to read, statements on the air where, they're constantly telling lies, and then they have to go out and they have to read a statement that the network forces them to read while they're on the air. And I think one episode they had to do it 4 times for 4 things they said that were not true. And so they had to come out and basically recant what they were saying. And their network forced them. Hey, you have to do this. You have to say this on air, because if you don't, then we're going to get into some serious litigation because what you're saying is lying, because that's all you all do is lie. Well, lo and behold, as we all know, Donald Trump, one of the greatest presidents ever, is taking back over the Oval Office. Mr. 47 used to be Mr. 45. And of course, when you have these big, inaugurations, stars come and they do things like they did at Obama's rally, at Joe Obama. Well, it could be Joe Obama, Joe Biden, which, by the way, is just one word now. It's 3 syllables, Joe Biden. It's just one word, Joe Biden. So like they did at Joe Biden's, because, man, the stars loved coming out for Joe Biden because they were definitely hiding, his incompetency while he was president. And, people believe stars for some odd reason. And, then you look at, what's her name, Kamala Drinks on the House Harris, who, what's her name? I mean, it's getting to the point where we're just forgetting about her, which is a good thing. Who just has all these stars that she paid millions and millions of dollars to help her lose the election. So, but Carrie Underwood, country superstar Carrie Underwood, comes out and says, you know what? I am singing at Trump's inauguration because the tides have turned. Back when he was 45, if you voted for Trump, you kind of kept it to yourself because the world was angry. And people would literally stab you if you said you voted for Trump. The Democrats would. The liberals would literally stab you if you said you voted for Trump. I mean, and if you don't believe me, go on YouTube and watch liberals losing their minds about Donald Trump. And look at the insanity and how unhinged these people truly are. Then Joe Biden won, and then everybody had a good dose of reality under Joe Biden. Things are really bad. Really bad. And this is what happens when liberals steer the ship. So then America comes out in massive support for Donald Trump. He wins massively and wins everything. Now all of a sudden it's not a bad deal to be a Trump supporter. Now all of a sudden it's no longer taboo. I mean, it can't be. He won everything. Destroyed the blue wall. Won all the swing states. Pulled more conservatives out of New York and out of California since Reagan. So how could it be a bad thing? And people are wearing that badge proudly, except the girls on The View. So Carrie Underwood says, you know what? You're Donald Trump. You're my president. I support you 100%. Good for Carrie Underwood. I am not a Carrie Underwood fan at all. I do not like country music. It's just not my bag. I'm more of a rock metal guy. But, because of that, I may actually take some time and listen to one of her songs. Way to go, Carrie Underwood. So what happens? Joy Behar, as always, right on cue, coming out to bash Carrie Underwood for supporting her country and her president.
I would not normalize him. And she says, I love our country. How do you love your country and support and normalize somebody who was a convicted felon who really wants to destroy the country, in my opinion? I don't understand how you say you love your country at the same time as you normalize this convicted felon, which I can say now every day.
A lot of my family voted for Trump. They love the country and vote for him. I think that people make these decisions for a lot of reasons.
Okay, fine. And I would not be the person to say don't do it, because I believe in free speech and everything about it. I personally would not do it. No one's asked me, but that's another story.
So there you have it. Donald Trump, how could you normalize somebody who's a convicted felon? Well, let's get something straight. He just literally became a convicted felon. And they kind of rushed that through just so they could get the felon part on Donald Trump. And let's think about this for a minute. He's a convicted felon that's going to serve no time for these god-awful crimes that he supposedly committed. How bad were the crimes really? How bad were the crimes really? They weren't bad at all. He's not going to jail because there's nothing to go to jail for. But then you have Joy Blowhard Behar. I like that. Joy Blowhard Behar. Blowhard Behar. Kind of rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? Blowhard Behar. So you have Joy Blowhard Behar who comes out here and says, how can you normalize a convicted felon? Well, Joy, you normalized Joe Biden. Was he a convicted felon? No, but he was a racist. Joe Biden was a hardcore racist. Go back in Joe Biden's past and look at everything he said, all the way up through Barack Obama, about the black people. Just Google it. Look it up. You normalize that. So you're saying that you support racism more than you support somebody who has 34 bullshit felonies? Because that's what it sounds like to me. You also normalized somebody who stole classified documents who never had the authority to have them. Joe Biden should have gone to jail for what he did. Donald Trump took classified documents when he was president. And then, of course, the liberal excuse that they love to use, well, he didn't give them back. Joe Biden did. Joe Biden never was allowed to have them. There's a massive difference. That's like saying if I rob a bank, get caught, and I give the money back, then I get to walk away for free. No, I'm still a bank robber. It's still a felony, even if I return all the money. Morons. Just because Joe Biden returned the documents does not make him less guilty, but it does in your eyes. Because in liberal eyes, the only people who are guilty are conservatives. Democrats are never guilty of anything. Never guilty. Only conservatives. And she actually has the audacity to say that they're going to normalize a convicted felon? And then she says, well, they didn't ask me to sing. Then she comes out and finally says, well, I can't sing, but had they asked me, it'd have been a hard no. Nobody would have asked you, Joy. First off, we don't need a repeat of Roseanne Barr singing the Star Spangled Banner, all right? Because that's pretty much what it would have sounded like had Joy Blowhard Behar gone up to Trump and tried to sing. It would have been an absolute disaster at best. At best, a disaster. But nobody asked you. And even if you had the magical vocals of, let's say, a Whitney Houston, nobody still would have asked you. Because you're a dyed in the blue, drink the Kool-Aid, hypocritical, absolute, mind-numbingly brainwashed liberal. Nobody would have asked you to do anything. I'm shocked you even still have an audience, although I do know that because your ratings are down so much that everybody on the cast of The View is taking a massive pay cut. They're taking pay cuts, and that's happening across liberal networks everywhere. Rachel Maddow, massive pay cut. Not So Joyful Reed, massive pay cut, because nobody's watching them anymore. Nobody's watching their shows. And liberal mainstream media is taking a bath now that Donald Trump won. Their viewership has fallen off like crazy. When the Hallmark Channel outperforms CNN in primetime, you got problems. And the problem isn't the people. Maybe the problem is you. And Joy Behar and her cronies fall right into it. And then it's Alyssa girl. I really don't know her name because she's the one, you can call her conservative, but she's a rhino on the show. Well, a lot of people in my family voted for Trump and they love the country. Okay, that right there tells me you're not Republican because I voted for Trump. I love Trump and I love the country. That tells me you're not a conservative and you're not a Republican. You're a rhino that's just being paid to be put on the show so they can say we have a voice from the other side, which really you don't. because she is actually, the thing she says is more liberal than it is conservative by far. What's her name? I don't even know her name. Alyssa something. I don't know. Alyssa Ditzy. We'll just call her Alyssa Ditzy. I think her name's Alyssa. I have no idea what it is. And that's how much I know about The View, to be honest with you. But for the simple fact of Joe Behar to come out and condemn Carrie Underwood for singing at Donald Trump's inauguration, that is a massive honor for anybody. And when you're a superstar like Carrie Underwood, who truly loves your country, who I'm assuming voted for Trump, then kudos to her. Good for Carrie Underwood. Lee Greenwood's going to be there, of course. He's a conservative. The Village People, from what I understand, are also going to be there, and they're going to sing YMCA because I think Trump plays out a lot of his rallies and stuff. And so that should actually be fun. That should actually be fun. These guys are how old now? In their 70s? And they're going to be up there wearing their costumes, doing YMCA. That should be hilarious. That's something I got to see. But it just absolutely it doesn't frustrate me, but I'm just getting sick and tired of the liberals and all of their ilk. Where does Joe Behar, who sits on her throne on The View and talks bad about everything America, says she's, I love free speech. No, you don't. You absolutely cannot stand free speech. You cannot stand it. None of you on The View like free speech. But you sit on your throne and you condemn everything that you don't like. Then you spread your rhetoric, your poison out to the people. And sadly, there are people who listen to Joy Behar and just absorb it. I find that to be amazing. I would rather get advice from a 4-year-old than I would Joy Behar. Because Joy Behar goes through life with blinders on. She literally can't see all the good that Donald Trump is going to do for America and all the good he did in his last term. She can't see it. But amazingly, she can see all the good that Joe Biden did, which absolutely boggles my mind because I can't think of a single good thing Joe Biden did. I cannot think of one. And I don't want to hear the infrastructure bill because that was a flop. That was a bust. And I sure as hell don't want to hear about the Inflation Reduction Act because that reduced inflation, zero, none whatsoever. But it did push their green energy policies. It did do that. And they just took all their green package that was crazy unpopular, that nobody wanted to hear about, and they packaged it into the Inflation Reduction Act and then got it through. And that's exactly what it was. So she's all good for all that, for things that absolutely hurt the country. But Joy Behar doesn't love anything that absolutely helps the country. And I got to be honest, in my opinion, The View needs to be canceled. It neither needs to be canceled or they need to just wipe these 4 people off the face of the planet and put in some other people who just might have a brain that might be somewhat entertaining for a change.